Hello, chat. Good to be here with you ahead of the Turkish Grand Prix. Welcome to the pre-drinks recording session. If it's your first time here, you will know that, well, you won't know, but this is just us hanging out. If you want the very good quality audio bits and pieces, wait to the audio podcast that comes out. It comes out about an hour or so after we finish this. So it's around midday Australian Eastern Daylight Time that it comes out. But boys, good to be hanging out with you. Just checking that you've got your right inputs on my
Whoa.
change.
I feel attacked.
Looks like you do. Looks like you do. Yeah. All right. Well, it's good to be here. Let's just crack into it, shall we, lads? For the Turkish Grand Prix. Lewis Hamilton goes fastest, but is relegated back to 11th thanks to a penalty. Charles Leclerc up on the third position for the start of the Turkish Grand Prix, and Daniel Ricciardo having an absolutely terrible qualifying. Hello there. My name is James Baldwin, and welcome to another episode of Lakeside Drive's F1 podcast. In this episode, we talk in a pre-drinking fashion ahead of the Turkish Grand Prix. And I'm joined, as always, by my friends and yours, Tommy T and Campy. Lads, g'day.
G'day.
Gentlemen, how are you?
Good.
Good, mate. It wasn't the most of exciting sessions of qualifying, was it? Yeah, that was more exciting than the whole qualifying session, you saying hello.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, look, it's been one of those weekends, really, hasn't it?
Mm.
Friday night, I really struggled I chucked on P1 and P2 and fell asleep both times. Just not a lot happening. I do like the Red Bull livery, though. That looks quality. Bit of an homage.
Jeez, that's the highlight. Bloody hell.
Yeah, and it's not that great. Sorry. I have to disagree. There's just too much branding on it to make it look like old school Honda livery. Don't you think, Tommy T? You're the designer of the crew.
Yeah, I like where they were going with it. I just don't think they nailed it. It could have been better. Get rid of all the branding. Tell them all to get stuff for a week. Charge Honda a mint so they cover this weekend worth of branding, and it's just Honda, no one else.
Well, Campy, Honda came out, didn't they, earlier this week to confirm what the arrangement was going to be for next year for Red Bull power units. Did you see that release?
Yeah, they will just be, I believe, it'll be a Red Bull power unit branded that way, but they'll just be consultants to the Red Bull engine development part of their business now. So they'll still have their foot in their door, but all is looking forward. I think more information's coming out about the 2026 engine regulations, and it's looking like the VW group will have both Porsche and Audi in F1. And they'll be using the Red Bull power units branded as a Volkswagen group type of engine. So
but that conversation about VW's been going for like 20 years in Formula One. Do we think this is actually going to happen? I feel like it's a load of crap, to be honest.
Look, with the new Concord agreement that came out last year, basically what the teams did is they shored up all of the prize money and their own interest for the next 5 years. And then they put in a stipulation that if a new team or manufacturer wanted to come onto the grid, it was going to cost them $300 million just as an entry fee. Now, that sort of investment from a new group, $300 million, plus all the technology they got to put into specifically the MGUH, which is the heat component, turning that into a turbo in the engine. That is the most expensive part they spend all the money on. So what they're planning on doing from 2026, and they've had meetings about this. They had some, I believe, at, what was before Russia? What was the race before that? Anyway, they had a meeting with all the heads.
DR's win?
Oh, yeah, Monza. They had it. Yeah, good pickup.
Good, Campy.
I wonder who's the most DR bias. Definitely not Campy.
Not this morning. Not this morning. We'll have to put him in the bin, I think, after last night. But,
back to your original point.
No, we've had some serious conversations. All the team principals and the FIA met whilst they were in Monza and had some serious discussions. So what they're going to do is they're going to remove the MGU-H component out of the engine, and they're going to go to a more of they're going to increase the capacity of the MGU-K, which is like the old KERS or the kinetic recovery, from about 110 kilowatt to about 350 kilowatts of output for the MGU-K. So that just makes it more attractive for a new engine manufacturer / teams to come into the sport without dumping massive amounts of money into this MGU-H. So it is a serious conversation, and it'll probably happen because I think F1 wants 12 teams or 24 cars on the grid moving forward. So.
Well, you're right. I mean, in that introduction, another 2 teams will help a lot, I think, for the racing point of view. Although there is potentially too much racing. And in fact, that is part of some of the complaints ahead of next year, boys. A couple of the reporters have been saying that it's just too much. There's 3 triple headers. And as we know, obviously it's a huge thing for us to record. We get up and record a podcast, but think about the families of those working in that environment, the drivers, of course, and all of the rest of it, especially in the current state of the world. It might be slightly different next year, of course, but is there a chance that the racing is being, or the sort of branding, I suppose, of Formula One is being diluted with all this racing? Do you think Liberty Media is taking it to try and be IndyCar and do 17 million races a year and everyone's happy with it? Or are you of the viewpoint that more racing equals better Formula One engagement? Tommy T, let's start with you. What do you think?
I mean, harden up. Seriously, more racing, more money, more fan, more engagement. I think more racing is better until we get to the point where it's literally one a week for an extended period of time. I don't think we're doing too much. I think the triple headers, yeah, but a lot of that's based on, pretty sure, World Cup and other events like that is all UK kind of like Europe stuff. That doesn't affect us. We wouldn't give a shit. Just put it on at the same weekend. We're not going to watch both of those events. Just give us the F1. So I think a lot of that consideration is taken in. They're like, oh, it's too much, but this is an international sport and it needs to be operated as one, not just the UK-centric kind of stuff it has been in the past. And hopefully Liberty change that. The introduction to Miami is going to help that as well, I think.
Yeah, look, as a fan, I want to see more action, more racetrack stuff. But the problem with like a 23 race calendar and 3 triple headers, then you've got 2 weeks of preseason testing. Then you've got your mid-season testings. And they add up. You know, now we're talking 26, 27 weeks of like actual racing and things happening. Then it becomes, like, I just think less is more sometimes. I mean, look at the NFL. I'm a big super fan of the NFL. They've got what, 15 games in a season plus the playoffs. So it only runs for 20 weeks of the year, essentially, or 22 or whatever it is by the time the out. But I just don't think we need that much racing because we're going to places like the Middle East who we're super critical of, and races there that just don't need to be on the track. We've got races like Russia, which is just a bore fest 99% of the time, other than the race we had last weekend. I mean, we're super critical of Qatar and Jeddah and those races because they're just boring. They're just processions. Yes, there's a lot of money in it, but I just think, a bit of a purist at heart, I just think go less. I mean, 18 weeks around the world, the logistics is a nightmare. The people are overworked and overtired. If they're going to do that, they've got to change the race weekend formats, I think, because it's just too hard to rock up on it. You know, crews are arriving Tuesdays, setting up hospitality units, doing the whole gig, and then they're out Sunday night onto the next one. Now, that can be done, and it can be done on a triple header once a year, which it's great for the fans, great for the sport. But you need to back that straight up with the month off, because I just think having 3 triple headers in Europe's okay because it's just loading everything on a truck and moving it around. But a bit less is more sometimes. I just think we don't need to overflood the market with everything else that's happening.
Well, certainly for the changes in a weekend structure, they are getting rid of, or talking about getting rid of, at least for the whole year, the Thursday media day. Certainly that's the case for Monaco. That's definitely happening. But I think, as you say, Campy, if that is going to happen, you need to change it. Get rid of Thursday altogether. Friday, Saturday, Sunday make it a 3-day thing and get some cars on track straight away with a little bit of media in between, because really, what are we gaining now from media conferences on Thursday? We've got children asking very, very bland, boring questions of these
Whoa,
drivers.
you having a crack at children?
Yes, because Tom Clarkson's also asking very bland and boring questions, because there's this whole day of trying to get a story. That's all they're doing, is they're trying to poke the bear like you do, Tommy T, so effectively on this podcast with Campy.
Let me do it then.
Trying to do exactly. Well, there you go. If that's the vibe. But I think there's no real benefit to a fan for that, and also because most of us are working on Thursdays anyway. We want to be sitting down and plugging in on a Friday afternoon or Friday sort of day if you're in the UK, or Friday night our time, and then just be wanting to get straight into it. I don't pay really any attention to anything that happens on Thursday. There's maybe a couple of quotable quotes, but really it's just, for me,
all amalgamated and put on social media anyway. So why do you have to pay attention at the time? The best stuff saved and thrown to us, so it might as well happen on a Friday, where we might watch it in between coverage. I completely agree.
And we've just come off like a race in Russia that was somewhat interesting in the last 5 laps and super exciting. All we've heard is the same story about Lando Norris throwing it away for 2 weeks. And we're just going to hear more and more of it. Like, find a better story, get some better angles. And I think that's the problem with too much racing and too much going on, is that you don't get the storylines and you don't get the build-up or the tension that we used to have in F1 sometimes, that every race was absolutely imperative that you can be there. Now we're realistically with limited engines throughout the year, teams are factoring in that they're going to have to take penalties in 2 or 3 races in order to finish the year. So it just means those 2 or 3 races become almost a stalemate throughout the year. But it doesn't all happen at once, and it throws up variables so we can get some different winners like we've seen this year. But yeah, I don't like it. I'd rather them just stick to 16 of the best and go from there.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, I'm in the middle between both of you. I think more racing is better, but I'm more racing in better circuits, as you say, Campy. Like, you can get rid of, China, Russia, Jeddah, Qatar. We haven't even gone to Jeddah and Qatar yet, and I want to put both of them in the bin already. Abu Dhabi can go. Bahrain gets some interesting racing sometimes, and certainly, you could do Bahrain and then Bahrain 2, the outer circuit, because that throws a bit of jeopardy in the mix as well. That was somewhat interesting, but not sort of amazing. And then we've got tracks like Mugello that aren't being used, but we've got tracks like Imola that are now being confirmed. It's like, come on, guys, we've got to find something that's actually going to be exciting. Of course, we also don't know how these cars are necessarily going to perform on these tracks next year. So Imola might be the best track, and Abu Dhabi might be the best track, and something like Monza might be terrible. It's unlikely.
I'd like to see Malaysia come back. I just reckon as a circuit, that circuit is just unbelievably. I don't know how they lost that, but I can't remember what the politics of it were, but yeah, that was a real shame, because that's a cracking track. We need to make this the biggest spectacle possible, and every race needs to sort of jump on board to make it bigger and better than what they're already doing. So,
and having more races in Asia is a fantastic thing. Let's be honest, because it suits our time so better.
Yes, please.
But why the Middle East? No one's ever there.
Yeah, well, as you say,
the money
thing.
That's why.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, we suppose we should probably talk about what happened over the last couple of days. Firstly, though, massive thank you to you. If you're watching on YouTube live stream, great to have you here. And thank you for the 553 people who have subscribed to our channel. Amazing stuff. We're getting a lot closer to 1,000. As I said, all things serve the algorithm at this point for this podcast. That's a massive thing. Also, shout out to you if you live in the US. We have had a massive spike in listeners listening to us from the US. It's really great to have you here. Seriously, it's fantastic. Campy cannot wait to go to Coda next year, except he's just realised it's on the weekend of his wedding next year, so that's hilarious.
No, it's not.
It's not. Okay, well, at some point it's going to be there.
The MotoGP in Melbourne is the same weekend next year, so that's the conflict.
Oh dear.
No.
We're just
Here we go.
You just have to have some binoculars, mate, to look across the body of water at Phillip Island. And the other thing to note that I thought was really interesting is Charles Leclerc came out this week, lads, and said that the fact that Oscar Piastri wasn't considered at all, really, for a Formula One seat is atrocious, is terrible. The other article that was sent through in the Discord, I'm pretty sure it was George, so thank you to you, mate, saying that Guan Yu Zhou's backers want a 3-year deal with Sauber, and Frederick says, like, no thanks, he only wants a 1 year. So there is potential still
Hey.
for Oscar to be able to get into this space if that's too hard basket. We just need to find some sponsors. So maybe we just need to crowdfund Oscar Piastri into Formula One
I'll
for next year.
chip in some cash. I'm sure it's not even going to put a small dent in the amount that he needs to go racing. But if we all band together, then
Exactly.
who knows?
Imagine Lakeside Drive written down the side of a
Ugh.
Sauber next year.
We'll
We'd
get
have to be
Tommy
collecting.
T to do a stupid cartoon version of us all. We'll get that on the front wing or something. How good would that be?
Just where the jack goes in, so it looks like your beanie's being removed each time the jack goes in or
Yeah.
something.
And we could
We'll just
make
put a
like
beanie on top of the airbox at the top.
Oh, that would be so great. I'm just imagining it now. That whole thing. Oh yeah, let's crowdfund Oscar Piastri. Let's get a Discord thing going there.
or the end plates could be Tommy T's hairline. That'd be great too.
They'd be so far up the back of the car.
It's a high rake setup. Settle down.
What about when they crash? It's going to look even more real. Oh,
very
jeez.
good. That's what you need on a Sunday morning. High
There you go.
rakes, set up, settle down.
Oh, I love it.
Oh,
Good
now
banner.
really, the only thing to come out of practice for me was Kimmy and the drink. He did not have the drink
Take
because
two.
it was leaking in his helmet because it was actually coming out this time and wasn't stopping. So he disconnected it, and then it was leaking in his boot. And they couldn't figure out what was going on. It was like, the reason it's disconnected is because he disconnected it and it's flooding the cockpit. And he's sitting there in the garage going, I can't believe you guys can't get the simplest thing on the car to work. He was not about it at all, Campy, was he?
No, it's very funny.
It was
So
funny.
funny.
But Kimmy has a way of talking to engineers.
Oh,
I think back to Baku after the red flag a couple of years ago. It's like, give me the steering wheel. Hey.
just yelling. He's funny.
Oh, jeez, it's good.
Yeah, he's
He's
a
very
very,
good.
he's a very
Is-
funny man.
I found it interesting as well to realize where the water's stored, right in the nose. And JB saying that when you want to change the dynamics of the car, you just have to have a drink to change the front end. That's
Yeah.
That's
interesting
crazy,
and also
isn't it?
brilliant. It's brilliant, to be honest.
Yep.
That's pretty crafty.
It's like a ballast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I've
that was
always wondered when they have the front wing off, and there's the top of that nose cone's exposed. Those little containers they have there, and that's just water.
Yeah.
I thought it might be some coolant or something. No, it's just water. It's
Right.
incredible.
It's amazing how much weight the drivers lose in a race anyway. So
Yeah.
I think it probably balances out if they are drinking to replace the water loss that they've suffered through sweat and whatnot, or if you're Nico Rosberg through wetting yourself in the seat. That I guess it all sort of marries up to itself, doesn't it, in terms of figures?
Yeah.
But it's incredible, but very, very funny. Kimi Räikkönen, we are going to miss you, that is for sure. But that's it for practice for me. It was very sort of a bit of a nothing event, Tommy T,
Yep.
for you as well.
Lots
Nothing
of
to
spins.
report. Yeah, lots of
Yeah, lots of
spins. I
spins.
suppose the overall thing we can talk about is just the difference in grip than what they were expecting. Obviously, we all remember last year was absolute carnage. That thing was like a skating rink with the fresh tarmac, with the oil. So apparently they've sent around a bunch of Turkish people with some karchers and just like given this whole thing a spray down, trying to get some grip back into it.
Deep cleanse.
Yeah, that's it. Apparently some high pressure cleaning,
Wow.
trying to remove the oils and roughen up the surface somewhat, but it's grippier now than what they were expecting. So Pirelli's come with, was it the hardest or the softest? I can't remember.
They
what
got a
they
step
chose.
softer from
it's
last
this-
year.
Step
C
softer, right?
4, 3, and 2.
But so that's kind of added to the problem now, where it's grippier, and now they've got grippier rubber. So I think the hard tire is really going to come into its own, isn't it?
Yes.
Be interesting. The fact that we were 6 seconds quicker or something compared to last year's kind of times is ludicrous. We don't see that kind of evolution year to year, do we?
No, but
Oh.
also nothing's happened on this track since Formula One was here
It's
last
sat
year.
dormant and just
Literally
been rained
nothing.
on. Yeah, and
Well,
had sun.
What a travesty that is, because this track
Right.
is
Oh.
a cracking track. I mean, turn one, that, blind downhill apex
Yeah.
that everyone seems to be losing on in the wet, I mean, let's hope there's
It's very
no slick
Brazil,
out
isn't
there
it?
for-
That corner.
Yeah,
It is.
And
you're
then the
spot on,
4
James.
apex corner. Oh, what? That is just cracking to watch live. Oh, I love this track. I reckon this
Yeah.
is a proper racing track.
Yeah.
It's a shambles that nothing else happens there throughout
Yeah.
the year. You would think because of its you'd think because of its geography close to Europe that a lot more categories would use it, but who knows?
And it's a
Maybe
cool
just-
city near it as well. Istanbul's wicked. Like,
Yep.
yeah. My favorite part's the low speed at the very end, where the whole lap can just be undone by just losing
Yeah.
Look at Charles
losing
last
traction at 60 miles an hour or something. That's like
Yep.
walking pace for these guys,
year. Yep.
and they just
Yep.
can't get it done on that last turn. It's
Well,
very
it's my
interesting
favorite
track.
thumbnail I did was Seb Vettel's face on bloody what's his name, the Stephen Bradbury when Charles Leclerc went off. And he
They
was
locked
like,
up
yes,
last lap.
yes, podium. That was the moment from
It was.
last year. But on the last lap, yeah, really, that was hard for Charles.
Brilliant.
But
Just the
yeah.
race Danny Rick got taken out last year and into turn one. He spun
who-
it, didn't he?
I
Or
don't
did he?
remember.
I think he
Quite
spun
One
it.
of the
honestly.
last year.
Was
Blake did.
Ocon. Yeah.
Anyway, it is a
one-
great
yeah.
circuit. You're right, Campy, and more things should happen on it. It'll be great for DTM, I think, to race on this circuit
Ah,
as
yeah.
well. Like that's the kind of
and
car setup that would
Why
suit.
don't we have the junior categories here? Why are we
Yeah,
waiting
it's-
to go to
Well,
bloody the
F3's
Middle East?
Done. Yeah, absolutely. We're waiting for F2. Oscar Piastri could, get into an F1 car and just,
Yeah.
bird around Alpine.
Yep.
Alpine. Anyway, well, that's practice. Let's talk about qualifying then, because a couple of things which were fairly interesting. I suppose we probably should talk rather about DR first and foremost, so we can have the in the bin opinion and the it's okay DR, we still love you opinion. Let's go with in the bin opinion first, Campy.
Oh, look, he's not in the bin. The guy's a superstar, and yes,
before we started recording, you were so different. Don't be a coward.
Hang on. I haven't finished yet. Look, he'll be fine.
You
We
really
love
threw
him. We still love him. But I'll tell you what, I've got to put him in the bin.
Oh, there
Fuck
it
him.
is.
Sort it out, Danny Rick. No one wants to see you qualifying 16th, when Lando Norris is 9/10 up the road. Yes, you missed out when the track was at its perfect place. And yes, your laps up until then, respectively, of everyone else had been consistently in the top 10. Yes, the team probably got it wrong on your try and do your lap, but mate, you're better than that. Just sort it out. I just can't find an excuse for him this weekend. I can't say anything that happened other than going a lap too early. But sort it out. I still love you. You're still my boy. I'm still rooting for you tonight. I think it'll be a win, but geez, just sort it out, mate.
All right, Tommy T. Let's. Everyone knows that if you've listened to the Team Radio podcast, by the way, you know that he can do no wrong. In my mind, apparently, I am confirmed the most Daniel Ricciardo biased. In fact, even for my birthday thing, you even put it in, Tommy T.
I did.
Thank you.
No,
That
you
was
made
good.
that post yourself. What are you talking about?
You know
Me
how many
posting
people
that?
messaged me saying, "Did you make that yourself?" Yes, I did. I made my own birthday post.
He did his
myself.
own social media post for his own birthday.
Oh.
What a wanker.
Oh, it's like
Classic
Dave
Jay.
Munnis reviewing himself on bloody Apple Podcast.
And then
You gotta do
deleting
it.
it, thinking no one would see it. I'm like,
Oh.
"Goodness, I can still see it. Now it says it's
Oh, mate.
deleted.
Oh,
It's even
what an
funnier.
idiot.
Mate, you did that post yourself. Come on. Don't...
I did, yes. Thank you. Thanks so much to at myself for my own birthday message.
So good.
Fantastic.
Oh, shit.
It's going well this morning.
This is great. This is one of the funniest podcasts we've done in a while. I love it.
Oh.
No, I think all the things can be mentioned. It's disappointing, but I don't think it'd be underrated how much that track was evolving as it was rubbering in. Like we mentioned, it sat still doing nothing other than get rained on, sun.
Yeah.
There's no rubber whatsoever, and any rubber that was laid down through practices was washed away overnight.
Yeah.
So it was evolving very quickly. So that last lap was pretty crucial. I reckon that easily would have sailed him into the top 15 at that time to get through to the next stage. So that can't be underrated. The other thing is I've just seen some rumblings that they might take a power unit. I don't know if that is a reason why he qualified poorly or if that's just now an opportunistic chance to take a power unit, but it can't be underrated that maybe was something to do with it. We've seen the Mercedes have to take multiple power units recently as well, so we know that is probably the end of a power unit of Daniel. So it might just be something like that wasn't quite where he wanted it, that meant he didn't have that little bit of extra juice on that last lap that
Look,
he did
it's-
manage to get in.
I think both of you are right to a point. There is something that McLaren needs to take, responsibility for in terms of where he was on the track at the time. But at the very beginning of qualifying, it was still raining, right? Or there was a threat of rain coming, and everyone was like, "It's going to rain in 3 minutes. It's going to rain in 5 minutes," and then it never really rained. It was a little bit of a sprinkle. The track dried out, and they started chucking the softs and mediums on. Lando Norris said something interesting after his qualifying session to say that the softs in the McLaren were not working at all. Whereas if he put the medium tyre on, which is what he qualified on, and the car came together a little bit better. So there was potentially something wrong there as well for Daniel that could have been fixed in Q1. I know they probably didn't want to use the medium, but of course now in retrospect, which is easy to obviously look back on, then it's better for that. But really, to suffer 3 places back to drop just ahead of Carlos Sainz for a new power unit, that means greater potential reliability for him for the remainder of the year. It's still a third of the calendar to go, including tonight's race. It's not a short distance. Let's do it. Get it out of the way. And he's got Carlos Sainz, right? We know that Carlos has done his own strategy with Ferrari the last couple of races to get himself in that sort of 6th, 7th position. So I think there's absolutely an ability. Look at Max last race weekend, I should say, which he got second. Valtteri the weekend before that, getting in third, starting at the very back of the pack. So long as McLaren can get the pit stops right this weekend, can get their strategy a lot better than obviously what we're talking about qualifying, and then potentially we get to see Daniel a little bit further up the road. It was just like, oh, okay, Mick Schumacher's out-qualified you. Well, good. That's hard to swallow, I think, when it comes to considering he won a race only 4 weeks ago. So it is what it is, unfortunately for DR. But look, he's got some pace in this car. The problem is it just doesn't seem like McLaren suits this circuit this weekend. So he hopefully should be on for some points. We'll talk about what we can watch out for him.
Well, if Carlos had have qualified as well in Q2, I mean, Norris would have been knocked out hands down as well. So, I mean, that just goes to the point that this isn't a McLaren track either. So,
well, let's talk about Ferrari, because I want to talk about Charles Leclerc. I mean, he net gains 3rd position, as I said. He's got the new power unit, which last time in Russia we didn't really see a lot of that impact. But for all the practices and quali, he was up there. He was pushing a lot faster than a lot of these other cars. So we know that if Carlos now has that same power unit, that there's potentially some benefit there as well. But for Ferrari, we actually got to hear from someone this weekend from the pit wall, and he was great. Where's this guy been forever? Because the sporting director, the name escapes me at the moment, but it's not Where's Wally. He was really, really fantastic, even to the point of completely ignoring Crofty at one point when he threw to him in qualifying and said, "Are you there?" And he's having a chat with one of his engineers and just doesn't come back to him at all.
Do you think Mr. Bonotto's got some outstanding warrants in Turkey? That's why he's not shown up 2 years in a row.
Allegedly. Wow. Yes.
Well, I'm just asking the question. I mean, once, fair enough, you can play it off, but 2 years in a row, it just seems to reek of a bit of what's going on here.
Campy, you launched your own in Campy's Investigations, which is a third Lakeside Drive podcast where you just randomly accuse people of things and then back it up with alleged evidence.
Oh, it's just a question. Jeez.
No, I think his pace was great, wasn't it? He's always been a really good qualifier, and he was kind of on the fringe every single qualifying session until the very last lap. So the track was evolving like we saw, but he was finding more every lap to get out of that. He also benefited from Sainz slipstreaming him at the perfect moment. I think it was in Q2 maybe. To sneak through, didn't he, to get through. So, but he was all by himself in Q3 and nailed it. So good on him. But yeah, last week that didn't look like that power unit was doing him any favors. So hopefully it is actually an improvement this week. Because it'd be nice to see Sainz come from the back as well and do well.
I mean, we're annoyed at Sainz at the same time for unnecessarily pushing Danny Rick into the bottom 5 ahead of Q2, you jerk. But it is good to see Ferrari starting to make a move again. It's going to make this... We've got 2 very distinct battles of the 1st and 2nd for constructors and 3rd and 4th for constructors, and it's good to see. It's not like this massive gap between all of these drivers, with all these teams, which is bloody fantastic. Let's talk about Fernando Alonso, because he starts in 5th. This guy is just absolutely mega. Campy, he was a little bit pissed off, though, in the press conferences on the Thursday, talking about useless days, where everyone's like, hang on, Alonso. In Russia, you completely cut that corner and took out all those bollards and gained a 2-place advantage and blah, 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 blah. And he was like, well, no one brought it up at the time. No one reported it on track. Everyone was fine with it. And we were fine with it too. But again, trying to find
Because
a
he's
story.
Dick Dastardly and he's bloody
Yeah,
playing by his own
exactly
rules, and
what
we're
he
all
is.
about it.
Exactly what he is. But I mean, he is just wily old fox is really coming into play here, and he's really got his head around this car now. I think, Campy, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, it took Danny Rick a while to get his head around it as well, but I think after 7 or 8 races, Alonso really started to prove his worth. I mean, they signed Ocon, in my opinion, way too early. But
Yeah.
Alonso's like, it just speaks to the quality of driver that he really is. Put him in that
Yep.
Merc, and he'll probably be doing the exact same things that Lewis Hamilton's doing. I mean, those two dudes are pretty comparable on track. I mean, when they've raced together at McLaren. I mean, that was a heated year, and a lot of political things happened off track. But geez, they're quick and they go toe to toe. He's still got it, right? And I think that speaks a lot to, especially like Danny Rick moving forward. He's got another 9 years in this sport if he really wants it. I think you lose. I mean, he's still got the dream and still got the goal. I think that disappears after time. Being where he's been for the last sort of 4 to 5 years, even in the Red Bulls days. I mean, never had that championship winning car either. But yeah, look, Alonso's a superstar. It's good to see him up the front. It's where we thought he would be this year, and we know that Renault has some definite pace on some tracks. We saw it last year. They had a purple patch last year with for 5 races, they were the highest scoring points team, I believe. So, I mean, there's some genuine pace when the track suits the car, and it's not surprising that we're seeing Alonso above Ocon and comfortably beating him. So,
Yeah. Is this the time for me to fully backflip and say how much I really enjoy Alonso?
Yes, it is.
Because I was the biggest kind of like, nah, he's done. We don't need that kind of like salty old guy coming in and going, back in my day, I was a bloody world champion and this is how it was. He's been unbelievable. He is absolutely annihilating Ocon. He's one of the best kind of people to hear from and talk about the sport at the moment. He is exactly the kind of representative that F1 needs for fans to see worldwide. He is exactly what we want from Formula One drivers.
Yep.
He is spot on, and he's still bloody great.
And to be fair to him, the bit that you saw, I think, because you came into Formula One a little bit lower, went away and then came back again, is he was so bloody angry at the lack of performance in that car that he was just spitting chips all the time.
For sure. Yeah. No, totally. But I don't think I've seen someone who is so good at defending as Alonso is. He keeps cars behind him so much longer than anyone else, but then also has the pace for qualifying, for all those things. He is such a well-rounded driver that I don't think we haven't really had to see it from Lewis because he's just been in a front-running car for so long, whereas Alonso in this, you're seeing so many of his skills come to light, which is the defending, which is the managing of tyres, all those things. He is outstanding. And if you had to put it down, remove machinery, I think he's one of the most talented drivers we've ever seen.
Yeah, but I mean, if you compare him and Hamilton's careers together, Hamilton's right place, right time, right?
Yeah. Alonso's wrong place, wrong time every time.
Yeah. Every time. I mean, he got it right when he went to Renault and won 2 on the trot. Then went to McLaren and it was him and Lewis, and McLaren went with Lewis because he was their young prodigy, and they went toe to toe and they were quick, but reliability robbed them of that championship. He then went back to Renault, and then after the Renault, that failed again. I mean, he still won some races, still a very competent driver, championship winning car. But then he had his Ferrari stint, and some of the results that he got in that car coming up against the Red Bull, which had no right of even competing anywhere near where Red Bull was. He was the driver that can extract that extra 2 to 3 tenths out and drive a race pace so much quicker than everybody else that makes that car competitive on certain weekends. We knew he was frustrated. We knew Ferrari shafted him. They didn't honour him by giving him a car that he should have had throughout his career. But, every car he's got, he's never had a world championship winning car other than the 2 years at Renault. Yeah. And you would debate that was even worthy of a world championship winning car either. I mean, it's just because he was that good. If you look at his teammate in Fisichella, there's no way you'd say that car was a world championship winning car. No. But that's the difference these quality drivers make. If he had made that move to Mercedes in 2012, we'd be sitting here going, he's the greatest driver of all time. Yep. Undoubtedly, hands down. But it's just right place, right time sometimes in this thing. But he's in a good headspace too. He's been a pretty divisive character at times because the teams haven't done the right thing by him.
Sure.
And he keeps his mouth shut, but he was right to say that Honda engine was a GP2 engine because it was a piece of shit.
Yeah.
McLaren, it was their own fault that they were in that position.
Yeah.
I mean, with Ron Dennis stuffing that team up like they did and the cheating allegations and the scandals that came with it. No wonder if Mercedes said, we don't want to deal with it anymore, you're too toxic.
Sure. Yeah.
There's a culture within this team that's wrong. Zach did all the right things by getting him and Jensen back, trying to build the team, get some quality drivers in the organisation to try and do it right. But that Honda was a piece of crap. And if Honda were offended by that, they should be looking themselves in the mirror going, well, he's probably right,
Yeah.
It's not a good business decision. But, I mean, in saying all that, in hindsight this year, people still love him. They still want him around.
Oh.
But he's been through all the bad stuff and he's just driving with with no pressure on his shoulders. He's just doing it because he loves it. He's probably in the fastest car he's ever driven before. So there you go. I mean, he's a superstar.
He's a superstar. It is great to have him back on the grid. And as you say, there's something about him that has changed since we saw him last time in Formula One. He's gone away and won Le Mans. He's gone away and tried Indy with Zach.
Close too.
Got close.
Yeah.
And we know that Zach loves Fernando as well. And, when it came to trying to find a replacement for Danny Rick in that Renault, he sort of tried to leverage his Renault tires with the Renault engine and trying to, encourage Renault to go with Fernando. And it was great because, and it's a shame that Ocon is there because I don't think he necessarily deserves it. It's great that he got a win this year, but that was, by chance and it wasn't necessarily on merit. Right place, right time on the track, talking about right place, right time in terms of championship winning cars. But could you imagine Fernando Alonso and Oscar Piastri together? Like the Oscar would be so well set up.
Oh,
yep. We know that Danny Rick came in, of course, and had Seb to learn from in a lot of ways, and that was a good thing for him.
Did that last long?
No, well, was like, thanks, bye.
Chased him out.
But I mean, let's not forget though that he, had some experience in other teams before coming to Red Bull proper. So there's another good thing I think for young drivers, and whoever ends up taking that seat in Alfa Romeo Sauber, there's a good thing to have Valtteri Bottas and either Guan Yu Zhou or Oscar Piastri or Teo Pourchaire is a good decision. I actually just want to jump across, and I've completely forgotten this point, but I'm kind of come to it now, is Michael Andretti is set to buy out the majority stake in Sauber to bring the Andretti name back to Formula One, which is very interesting. I think we're talking a little bit a while ago in terms of who do we get in terms of new teams? As said, I think Audi and Porsche and that the whole Volkswagen group is one thing, but to buy out a stake in an existing team is a good thing. We see Williams is reaping the rewards for that, and Sauber I think about time for that too. I think in 2007 they were brought out by some Swedish conglomerate company. Now if we can update that to a racing family. Yes. It just means, though, that Zach Brown from United Autosport's point of view and Michael Andretti from the Andretti Autosport's point of view are getting into every bloody racing category they can find. Extremely there together, and now McLaren's entering. You've got Indy, you've got Formula One now. They end up bloody with MotoGP and all kinds of other stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll get a drive.
Well, who knows?
V8 supercars, there's everywhere.
It's an interesting point, I think, to note that people are still looking at this as a serious thing. Now, nothing's been confirmed, but these are very strong rumors that something's going to happen in this space. And Campy, it's a good thing for the US audiences, don't you think?
Yeah, well, because it gives them some buy-in too, but it's also good for Oscar Piastri too, because I mean, for whatever reason, they're not really considering him next year on the open. I mean, he's the only driver that you would bring in hands down above Porsche as well. I mean, the kid's a star, but I mean, it leaves the door open for Piastri, next year if he wins this F2 title. But yeah, I mean, who knows? It's being selfish, really, but it's good for Andretti. I mean, his last foray into Formula One wasn't too great, so he may have some unfinished business.
He might enjoy it from the ownership side rather than
I think
side.
Yeah.
Well, we know that he's already doing that in where he's going, and of course he signed Romain Grosjean in Indy too. So there's a lot of goodwill in the Formula One paddock for that brand at the moment. Pierre Gasly. Now, he had a rubbish couple of last races, didn't he? Of course, losing the front wing in Monza and just not being able to get it at all together in Russia. Starts in fourth, second row for him. Very, very good news, Tommy T. Certainly, I mean, he's out driving that car. He's well ahead of Perez,
Yeah.
who starts in 6th as well.
Yeah, but we go back to this same question again. Where does he go next? Because there's obviously no seats next year, but his future, is it just always going to be in this AlphaTauri or whatever they decide to change the bloody name to next year? What does he do? Because I don't think it's going to go back into that Red Bull seat. I think the other kind of top tier cars are full and kind of locked in. So does he go sideways and go somewhere else? I don't know. I think he's kind of hit himself in a dead end. I think hopefully that AlphaTauri keeps developing alongside that Red Bull to be a competitive car and he can stay there. But who knows? I think that's going to be the biggest question because he's a bloody great driver. Unfortunately, when he's put next to Max, like anyone, he doesn't look like it. And that car just definitely didn't suit his driving style. Or maybe it was the pressure. Who knows? A combination of all. But ripping drive.
Oh, there's some genuine pace in that car over one lap. I think it struggles over the race distance, as the Constructors' Championship would suggest in the way that car looks over a race distance. But, I mean, he's scored the majority of the points. How many points has Yuki got? Does he haven't cracked 10 yet? But
I'll look it up.
Anyway, but... Oh, cheers. Geez, he's performed well over one lap, isn't he? I don't think they got the race pace, but yeah, I mean, I watched a video of him on online where they were talking about Albon getting the second year in that car, and he was visibly gutted. He's like, "What do I have to do? I'm spanking these guys." When they took Perez, he's like, "What is earth happening here?" And I kind of get where he's coming from, but I mean, unfortunately for him, Red Bull remember what he was like when they put him up too early.
Yeah, and Red Bull have
It
already said Alex Albon is an option for our future car. They've said even though he's in DTM and going to Williams, they haven't ever said that about Gasly in the last 12 months.
Yeah,
Which is bizarre. I
mean, but he played the mental health card too, which, he's totally entitled to play that card if that's genuinely what he's going through. But I think within the organisation, he's not super well liked. So he's got to get out of the Red Bull frame.
Exactly, but Danny Rick, to a point, same deal. I mean, it's not necessarily the mental health card; it's the culture of how you develop your drivers, and it was a negative culture for both Daniel, Pierre, Alex to a point as well. I mean, Alex was held on all the way until after Abu Dhabi to be told, actually, no, you're not coming in to the 2021 season.
I still don't I understand why Red Bull made the decision they made with Max Verstappen, and I think they made it to the point where Danny had to get out of Red Bull because it's like, what's the point in staying? He went into that organisation with a 4-time world champion into a brand new regs. He was the guy that was supposed to, come in and play second fiddle with Seb. He made Seb look second rate in 2014 and spanked him, got 3 wins in his first car. And we're all going, geez, how good's this guy? 2015 was a lean year just because of the Mercedes domination. And that Red Bull had a hell of a lot of mechanical breakdowns and troubles. 2016, he got a couple of wins. 2017, got a win. Finally, until he left. I mean, up until Danny Rick made the announcement to move to Renault, he'd comfortably beaten Max Verstappen over the 2.5 years that they raced together. Max got some results, don't get me wrong, and he was pushed, but over the season and the points accumulated, up until the announcement. And I mean, Danny Rick was clearly still the number one driver. He really did nothing wrong within that organisation, but Red Bull went a certain way, and that's how it goes.
It's the Fernando Lewis thing in McLaren, isn't it? They made the D, and off they went. Anyway, for Gasly, though, Tommy T, I think the answer is he is a driver that other teams would want. Teams like Aston Martin and others in that kind of fold would be looking at him in Alpine going, well, in a couple of years, he's still a young bloke. In a couple of years, he's got some good pace. We don't know what the 2022 car is going to be like. He might absolutely smash it in the AlphaTauri and consistently outperform whoever, Perez, like he's almost doing at the moment. I mean, Perez...
He might be like that Perez who opportunistically just jumps into the right car at the right time because there's no one left kind of thing, and he's just the best remaining driver, which would be good to see. Quickly to answer your question, Campy, 18 points for Yuki, but I've just jumped on the F1 website, and would you like to guess who is in 21? Went 21...
21st.
21st, bloody... No, it is Nikita Mazepin. They put Robert at 20th. That is savage.
There you go. Classic.
That is F1 just taking the piss. That is great.
What do we expect, though, really?
I love that.
Brutal.
But look, okay, for Pierre, we don't know, but he's in that seat next year. He's alongside Yuki, new car. It's all to play for in
But,
2022.
Driving well, I'll give him that.
Yeah, he's driving fantastically, and good for him. You know, hopefully he does have a good result somewhere else on the grid. Yeah, for Valtteri Bottas though, it's good that he starts up the front. He deserves it, of course. Hamilton though in 11th. Really, from this point of view, and it was even asked of him and Toto after qualifying, like, is he going to be playing a team game here to try and get Lewis ahead? And Toto said, no, he's going to want to win it, so off he goes. Really, there's also the Constructors' Championship to be thought about here as well.
Yeah.
And
Mercedes care more about the the apparently. Give
And
me
why
a
wouldn't you?
break.
Red Bull
Why
don't
wouldn't you?
care whatsoever.
Yeah,
They will
exactly.
sacrifice Checo at any second.
Yeah. Classic Karen.
Hey, you're in the points right now, Checo. Can you just go to a faster lap so Lewis can't have it? That has
Yeah.
already happened this year and will happen again, I bet.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's the kind of attitude that we like, though. That's
I'm
the
all about it, all or
petulance at the
nothing.
front.
Yes.
But yeah, for VB, it's good, right, Campy? I mean, it doesn't have long really left in a quick car. We don't know what next year's Sauber's going to be, but for him, it'd be nice to get another win under his belt, wouldn't it?
Oh, look, I think since he's announced that he's gone to Alfa Romeo next year, he's had 3 weekends in qualifying that are pretty spectacular. Unfortunately for him, he just hasn't got the job done. So, I mean, Monza, he was good. Russia, he was exceptionally good up
Taking
until
about 7 engines in 3 races, that's why.
Well, I mean, Russia, he was good up until Lewis shafted them in qualifying. This week again and again. I mean,
Yeah.
he's within a tenth and a bit of Hamilton and looking quick all weekend. I mean, it's no mean feat. The guy can still drive. He's going to go to Alfa Romeo next year, and I think they're going to have a driver where they've never had a caliber of that driver ever before, and that'll promote them up the order, and we'll be sitting back going, oh, geez, he's good. You know, so shame for him, but I hope he gets the win. I mean, he's capable of going out and getting 4 wins on the
Definitely.
trot. I've said that all year. I'm expecting it to happen. If he comes out and gets a win, I mean, if he comes out and gets a win tonight, that'd be great. At least he can say he's still contributing to the team. And then, still got a few races left. I mean, Lewis and Max could crash out, in a couple of races, and all of a sudden there's, if Valtteri does the right thing and gets some wins, there's, he's only within 50 points of the championship. And with 5 or 6 races to go, I mean, anything can happen. Not that I think it will.
That
Could
would be
you
the
imagine?
ultimate Bradbury prediction from you at the start of the season, saying that he was going to win it. Imagine.
I imagine
I'd
it'd
love
be
that.
crazy.
It'd be amazing.
But then
And then he
Mercedes,
leaves to go to another team.
Mercedes in a tough spot, aren't they? They've just sacked the
Oh.
world champion. No, it's not going to happen. But
Be hilarious.
I mean,
Let's do it. I
he's-
want it to happen.
what,
now.
he's
Yeah.
100 point. He's 100 points behind. But I fully expect Lewis and Max to tangle. At least have 2 more DNFs, and if he capitalises, anything can happen. So who knows?
Well, let's talk about the starting grid. Valtteri, as we said, is in first. Max had a good session in second. So that's going to be an interesting front row start. Leclerc third, Gasly fourth, Alonso fifth, Perez sixth, Norris in seventh. He doesn't have a lot of confidence in being able to keep Lewis Hamilton behind him, which is interesting.
Neither do I.
Stroll, who ruined Mick Schumacher's qualifying by sliding off the first corner and just going full Stroll, is in 8th. Tsunoda 9th, which is unusual. Of course, this is all including Hamilton's penalty, which starts here, although he was fastest on the day. In qualifying, he starts in 11th. Ocon 12th. George Russell, didn't hear any Mr. Saturday quotes, and fantastic. I was very happy about it. I was still too busy trying to get over Lando, binning it in the rain. He starts in 13th. Mick Schumacher in 14th, which is his best ever start. Could have been a lot higher. Well, not a lot higher, but maybe 1 or 2 positions higher if Stroll hadn't gone off. Danny Rick in 15th, which is depressing at the moment. At least we don't know what happens with the engine penalty. He might be in 19th if he takes a new power unit. Nick Latifi in 16th, Giovinazzi in 17th, Kimi in 18th, and Mazepin in 19th, with Carlos starting at the very back with that engine penalty. In terms of what to watch for in the race, boys, As I said, Lewis Hamilton starting in 11th. He will be on the charge, though, won't he? Lando Norris, as I said, having absolutely no confidence in the press conference after qualifying, keeping him behind. But we know that he can keep a Mercedes behind. We know that Mercedes aren't great at overtaking. Campy, what do we expect?
Lewis is strapped on some downforce so he can get the extra braking, so he'll be making some big lunges this evening.
Yeah.
I don't think McLaren had the pace to hold off the Mercedes this week, and I don't think anyone's got the pace to hold off Mercedes other than Verstappen.
Does Hamilton get tyre choice now that he's dropped back, or does he have to honour the one he qualified on Q2?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so mediums, I think, was what happened there. So
they
got through on mediums. Yeah, everyone but I think the Astons. But yeah, so
why was Danny Rick on the softs then?
Because you didn't get out of Q1, mate.
Q1.
That's before you need to worry about tyres.
Put yourself in the bin, Campy.
Yeah.
Right.
I think at least that Lando's on that medium, he might have a bit more confidence now because that soft was useless.
Yeah, but your medium hard one stop, I'd say. So
yeah.
Look, anything can happen.
Well, let's talk about Sainz and Daniel at the back. Do they start on the hard, Campy?
I think you have to, don't you?
You have to, and then just hope for something to run long and a safety car jump in opportunistic and get a free stop.
Well, it depends on what the weather's looking like. If it's raining again, then everyone starts on inters and that all goes in the bin.
Doesn't look like there's much chance of rain. It looks like it'll be dry, but
did Manus tell you that?
Watch torrential flooding happen now as a result.
Thanks for that.
But yeah,
we'll stay up late. We won't get to see a race.
You got to go long when you're at the back of the pack. And the hards will hopefully work okay for DR. The problem is Sainz, and as we saw the pace with Charles Leclerc, then Sainz is going to go up the road. All he needs to do is kind of hang on to the back of him and get a decent enough start. If he's at the back, if he's not at the back, he's got Ocon and Hamilton in front. So if he can just tuck in, behind Hamilton, hopefully
he'll get past Russell and Schumacher.
Yeah, he should.
Russell's a useless starter
on the first. Well, he needs to, because if he gets stuck behind George Russell, like we saw in Russia, it's just boring for everyone.
Yeah,
like he needs to get past them absolutely. But Bottas and Verstappen, though, that's going to be an interesting start. We know, as you say, Campy, that Mercedes got the pace. VP's got some lightning quick reflexes with these starts. It's the first time we've seen him up the front for a little bit. But in terms of if Max gets ahead, then it's almost bye-bye birdie, because Max is very good at keeping cars behind.
I would be so scared. I don't think we're going to see Max for crashing, because he can't take out Bottas, because then Hamilton just sails through for a win. He's going to be more conservative because Bottas now has nothing to lose and Max has everything to lose. So I think you'll see him yield if he's not fully through.
Yeah.
Unless he just sees the red mist because he's a lunatic and we love it. But
But that first corner is interesting, as we've discussed anyway. It's a bit of that Sao Paulo, Brazil kind of vibe. So it almost doesn't matter where you are going into the corner, because coming into that second corner and third, there's a different...
switchbacks.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's a potential to do that, so long as you don't get punted off or outbrake yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just looking at the starting grid, it looks like off the top, Bottas and Verstappen, they're going to be clear, 10, 15 seconds ahead of everyone else. If Leclerc's got some pace, I think he'll play an interesting role in when these guys pit and when they don't, just because of track position. Because I think there'll be a DRS train between Gasly, Alonso, Perez, Norris, Stroll, Tsunoda, Vettel. So I think that'll actually help Vettel if he can get Hamilton, if he can get 2 or 3 spots off the start, or even a spot, that'll put him in 10th. But then he can just pick those guys off in the DRS train, just because he's strapped a bit more downforce on, and at the end of these straights, he'll be able to break a hell of a lot later and pick his way through. I think third is probably on the cards for him, depending on something happening. But could be an interesting race, and that's what we'll be watching most of the night, is Lewis coming through the field, I think.
Yeah, and Perez now has a job of keeping Hamilton behind him. He now has to do that rear gunner style. How confident are we in his ability to do that?
I think it's the same as like Bottas trying to keep Verstappen behind him.
Yeah.
I mean, it's abundantly clear that Verstappen and Hamilton are so much faster than their teammates, so that when they come up against, the other team's number 2, they can get the move done just because they got that extra 3/10 in them over a race distance every lap that enables them to make these passes. So I think, I mean, Perez is quick at times, but he's shown nothing this year, I don't think, other than the one win he had.
Let's not forget too, Gasly is a great starter, and although you've said that he doesn't have, like, the AlphaTauri doesn't have great race pace, I think it's not too bad. It'll be interesting to see the kind of start he gets on Charles, because that'll be the battle. It'll be Bottas and Verstappen battling. It'll be Charles and Gasly battling, and Alonso will be keeping the rest of the field, all the rest of the other 20 cars behind him. And if Alonso gets a great start from Perez, then that's going to compromise Perez. Norris might have a look up Perez. Stroll's going to be pretty useless. Tsunoda's going to be useless. Vettel's probably going to be useless. And Hamilton might, sail past Vettel, Tsunoda, Stroll, Norris, even on the first lap. He might even get a good enough start and be able to swing it around that first corner. Anyway, It's going to be very, very interesting, lads. If you haven't yet joined our Discord server, please do that, team. It's fantastic. A community of people there. It's friendly for everyone. We like to keep it that way. If you're a jerk, you get kicked out of the server, effectively, although Campy's on his last warning. But it's well worth joining. Thank you. Fantasy team names as well. Don't forget to change them ahead of tomorrow. I actually changed my fantasy team. And I'm very excited to outperform both of you because I had Verstappen, I turboed Leclerc, Gasly, Alonso, and Norris, and my team is McLaren. So I'm looking forward to bloody outperforming both. You've got to pull these points back. That's my task for the rest of this year is just to get past Campy. That's all I want.
Hand on my heart, I still haven't changed it since like way back. I still haven't looked at it. So
you just set up your team really well, Campy, and we all hate you for it.
Sainz is still my turbo driver. That shows you how much I don't care.
He might do all right if he overtakes the whole bloody field and gets a podium.
Yeah, we never know. I mean, so much could happen. It's all to come. But a massive thank you to you for watching, especially if you're on the YouTube live stream. We will see you tomorrow at 5 o'clock or 5:30. I can't remember what time we're on. Is it 5:30? One of those times, Australian Eastern Standard Time, 5:30. Where you can watch
daylight
savings time, James.
Daylight AEDT. There's too many times. Anyway, whatever. You can tune in at 5:30 Melbourne time. There you go, lads. You can have some Melbourne time. And watch us debrief the whole race. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button on YouTube if you haven't already. But lads, a massive thank you to you. Looking forward to this race tonight. And we'll discuss it all tomorrow. Thanks very much. Thanks to you, chat, as well, for watching. It's great to have you here. If you want to listen to the audio, the good stuff, it'll be up very shortly. But we'll see you very soon. And thanks, lads. Appreciate it.